Live. Hello, 52 weeks of design here with Alexa Hampton. Today we are going to go live with the amazing Peter Som. And there he is, and I'm more excited. Sorry about that squeaky toy. Look what I'm wearing!
Yay! I love that. I love that.
How are you? I was so excited to see that you also had it.
Yes. No, I love your support of Chinatown and New York and everything.
Oh my gosh. Yay.
And I'm loving your glasses too. I mean, cheers to the
Thank you.
glasses crew.
I decided to go, ladylike. We four-eyed people need to stick together.
We do.
So, Peter, this is my first time meeting you. And I want to say that I am such a fan.
Oh, good.
Which, wow.
Well, thank you. I'm such a fan of you, and I mean, I've known obviously about you and your Mark Hampton, your father's like legendary firm for forever. So and I feel like our paths have probably so many.
Yes.
There's so many common friends that I'm surprised that we're just meeting now. So.
Yeah, I did not realize that you knew Elizabeth Blitzer, who is just the greatest person on earth.
Yes, amazing. Yep. So many people.
Anyway, I'm just thrilled to meet you. You are amazing. And by the way, your hair is amazing, which is so shallow. Why am I so shallow?
It's actually a wig. I'm just gonna take it off. No, I'm kidding. Thank you.
So your career is storied and varied. So I'm excited to hear all about it. And I also loved reading your answers to the questionnaire. And actually, your childhood bedroom sounded pretty fierce. With the matching zebra bathroom,
I don't know if I had just discovered, like a Diana down of Vreeland or something, and it was also the 80s. So, I mean, full zebra moments. Yeah. Even my 8th grade, I did the 8th grade yearbook cover. This was the 80s, and I literally drew yellow and black zebra stripes for the cover of Marin Country Day School.
I too did a yearbook cover for a graduating class of 1989, and it was just like a pathetic ripoff of a hallway my father would have done. Like receiving input from our muses. So when you went to Parsons, did you know you wanted to go into fashion, or you were like, I'm a creative soul? Oh, and are your parents creative?
Yes, and all yeses. So my parents are both architects. So I think I lucked out in that respect, that they understood my creativity and they fostered it and they encouraged it.
And they could tell that they could tell you about how to become a professional.
Yeah,
exactly. That creativity is not just an offshoot.
Yeah, and I think when I was younger, I mean, I thought maybe I should be an architect. I loved floor plans. I loved, back in the day, they were blueprints, right? They used ammonia. So that smell of ammonia and and then their office with a printer, and then I would take the backs of them and draw these floor plans. So I really thought I wanted to be an architect. And then I realized I was horrible at math. And so and then I also just started drawing fashions. I was a very shy kid, so I was always sketching. Basically my mother, and from that it turned into women, and then their clothes, and then just all kind of went from there. So yeah, I knew it from 5th grade that was what I wanted to be when I grew up. I declared it to all, anyone
who would listen.
Anyone with an earshot, which is basically my parents and my sister. And from that moment on, I was sort of determined to, I did go to Connecticut College, so I did a liberal arts degree, art history. It's all related, And then
it is all related. It really is all related.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody recently who said, "Oh, I guess it was Mary McDonald who said, "Oh, I took art history, you know, when you don't know what you want to do." And you know, when I was watching it over, I was like, that's not right. You know, art
Like,
history informs everything. And I'm sure she was saying it in jest anyway.
yeah, of course.
But
I mean, yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, it's whether you're an artist or you're a designer, and there's a difference. You're not creating in a vacuum. You are a product of your
yeah.
society, what's going on, the culture, everything. So, and I love history anyway. So I did that, and I ran around Connecticut in my LL Bean.
I remember I had friends at Connecticut College that I would drive and hang out with from Rhode Island. I mean, it's like
Uh-huh.
that stretch of 95 has a lot of
Yeah.
wonderful people who were on it in those years.
Yeah, and Conn College was just such a beautiful campus. It was, just
Yeah.
looking over the sound, very like everything a boy from California Bay Area thought about going east
Yeah.
was that. So of course I had to literally dress in full East Coast drag, like
Yeah. Like topsiders and
totally. I
yeah.
had the red LL Bean anorak. I had J Crew roll neck sweaters. I was just full.
And I'm sure
Living
you
my
look better
best.
than everybody.
Well, that's up for debate, but but so yeah, so by the time and the whole time I was there, I was like, I still want to do fashion. I want to do fashion, and I think my parents wanted me to have a well-rounded education, and I think I agreed. I don't think I was mature myself enough to just go straight to New York. I just
Yeah.
wasn't. That's just me.
Yeah.
So I graduated, moved to the city, worked for a few years at a company
Did
called
you go to the city a lot as a student?
I did. Once a month there was a bus that would take you from, in the morning on Saturday, take you and drop you off on 57th and Madison or something.
Yeah.
We would run
The
down
center of the universe.
right, and then we would run down to 8th Street and buy Doc Martens because we were wanting to be cool, and go.
Pat Fields and 8th
Oh,
Street
totally.
was
Yeah,
and McDougal, like that
yeah.
was the center of excitement.
Yeah, we would go hang out in the West Village at
Yeah.
Cafe Raffaella, if anyone remembers that
Yeah.
place. Yeah, so I did come to New York City a lot, and I was obsessed with fashion like from 5th grade on. So even at Conn College, I was obsessed with fashion, and got my Vogue subscription and everything. So when I graduated, I worked for a couple of years at British Khaki, which was run by Liz Lighton, who's an alumna of Conn College.
British Khaki is when they went out of business, or I mean, he closed, whatever he did.
Yeah.
I mean, they had the best caning, they had the best desks. I had the dresser with the barley twist
I
in
probably
my
drew all-
bedroom. Those
I
bookcases
probably
I
hand
bought.
drew all of those because it started off really as a clothing company, and then Robert split off and started doing furniture, which is
You drew
how.
those?
So I mean, I was there in the design room, and he was starting the furniture line, and there was really no CAD. I didn't know how to do CAD or anything like
Yeah.
that. So he would give me. I mean, I sort of drew them for illustrations or for the catalog or whatever. So I do remember. I know a good turned leg when I see it. I know some good Anglo-Indian.
I mean, for real, I cannot believe that you drew those.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
were among my absolute favorites and still are for just hitting it just perfectly.
yeah,
It's
there
just
was.
perfect shapes.
Yeah, there was serious proportion and thought and design, and there were great pieces. I mean, at the time I was so confused because I was designing dirndl skirts and chambray
Yeah.
shirts with snowflake embroidery on them and stuff. So it was very that. But then after that I said I need to go to Parsons and
Yeah.
actually really learn how to pattern make or how to sew. All these things you kind of need to know the background of, even if when you go into
The foundational
Yeah.
understanding of what you're doing, even if you never do it again.
Exactly. You have to know how to fit, how to talk to a pattern maker,
Mhm.
understand proportion, all that kind of stuff. So when I finally got to Parsons, it was the promised land for me. I was
Yeah.
so excited. Yeah.
And I was very excited. I didn't even know this Golden Thimble Award existed, but I love that you won it. And Isaac Mizrahi gave it to you. And was Isaac Mizrahi at that point, Isaac Mizrahi, like had the documentary come out?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. That's crazy.
I was such an Isaac fan. I mean, I still am.
Yeah.
I dressed like him. I mean, I wore gingham shirts and khakis, and like I wore,
The
you know,
headscarf?
like loafers with no socks. I mean, I didn't do the bandana around the head, but like, I forget what year the movie came out. Maybe 90 whatever.
It taught me the word scrim, which I now use
Oh, you can-
indiscriminately.
yeah, yeah.
Oh my
For
God,
sure,
I'm
for
so
sure.
bad. I'm sorry.
You're getting some yardage out of that one, aren't you? We'll try to weave it into another joke later.
No, somebody's gonna throw shade. Oh my God, this has to stop.
That's sheer madness. Sheer madness.
Oh my God, Peter, where have you been all my life? Where have you been?
Where?
Like,
I've been sitting here with powder and foundation on
just
my nose,
waiting to
and
be discovered
and
and
with
punished
actually
by me.
a roller shade that is sort of like scrim right now.
Yeah,
Because
totally.
soft lighting's my friend. So
I decided today that being backlit was where I needed to be. Um,
I love
so,
that.
so you were a star at Parsons. I mean, I know you can't say that, but I mean, that's a pretty, you
I mean,
were the,
you know,
would you say valedictorian perhaps?
I mean, I don't know if I was that. I mean, I was definitely, you know, a few Golden Thimble Awards were given out, so I wasn't like the one or anything. But you know, I think at that time, you know, my style, which was very American sportswear,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when I was very what was understood and that kind of thing. I wasn't
Yeah.
avant-garde, you know, it wasn't like
So actually,
anything.
it's interesting. I mean, of course, you would say that because when I read your, where you had started to go from Bill Blass to Tommy Hilfiger, and then to your own. And was I correct in calling it an atelier,
Well, so I
or
basically,
that's a specific thing?
so I was at actually Bill Blass twice. So I was at my first job out of Parsons was at Bill Blass when Mr. Blass
Yeah.
was still there and still it was the old crew and I
Sure.
was like this young white-eyed kid.
Craig
And Laura
yeah,
and
yeah.
Yvonne was doing PR.
Mhm.
It was, I mean, I was stepping into this kind of amazing, rarefied, and slowly
And
disappearing
so
world.
old school.
Old school. You
Yeah.
showed up at 9, you left at 5. That was it. I mean, I had, and I had friends, who worked at Donna and Calvin, and they, and any other office, you were, if you were, especially an
And in that
assistant, you were
famous
there till like,
building.
you were there till like 8, 7, you were there, but everyone just left at 5. But one of my favorite things to do there was he would leave his sketches that evening or whatever. And they were, his signature, his sketches are very signature. They're like 4 lines, like a scene. And my job
I
was
did
to
not
take-
know that they were 4 lines. That's
I mean, they're
yeah,
very
I love that.
signature, kind of like sketches. And I would have to take them they were on vellum and re-sketch them for the pattern makers. So I would then put in the armhole or like draw where I think maybe like a dart would be or whatever,
Right.
and redraw them. And then, they would use that for the pattern makers or whatever. So for me, that was just such an exciting thing, like to like be the one
Yeah,
to
to have your
this-
hand in it.
Yeah, and he's legendary. I mean, legendary. So then I actually
And really the greatest
Yeah.
taste.
yeah, and I mean he defined an era of American fashion, and things that we take for granted, like wearing a sweater with a taffeta ball gown, or that
Totally.
kind of mix of American casual
Hello.
ease, is distinctly something that he did from day one. So I was there, and then I started my line, and then while I was doing my line, like most young companies, I also did other things. So actually, I was
Sure.
when I was consulting for Tommy, I was still doing my own line, and then I
Yeah.
was also came back to Blast a second time as a creative director, and so I was always doing many things.
But when you describe that you were doing American design, it's yes, you've just named 2, though
Yeah.
totally disparate. I think of Tommy Hilfiger in a different segment of American design. And yes, Bill Blass, I think of as quintessentially American design. In fact, maybe so much so that I feel like he needs to be talked about more
Yeah. I
globally.
yeah,
But
I mean, I think yeah, it's interesting how, I mean, we can get in the whole topic of sort of American heritage brands and where they go or don't go, but yeah, I think
well,
what
and
he,
now here you come, and you're an American heritage brand,
I
and you
guess that,
have you have dressed well. Well, you are Peter. You have
well,
dressed Mrs. Obama. I mean, like, holy shit! Like, congratulations.
oh,
You know,
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's been a great run. I mean, like, and
and
for
you're
me,
12.
I mean, love you. I
There's
love
plenty
you
of
even
run
more.
left in those legs. Gray or prematurely gray, notwithstanding. You just did that to
Yeah,
look
I
cool.
added it in. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Um, yeah, that's amazing. And it's also amazing. Um, yeah, okay. So anyway, now you're doing everything.
Yeah, I mean, I have always loved cooking and that kind of thing, and I think
Mm.
as I just started, the years have gone on, I've realized how important cooking and that kind of the nurturing nature of it, and just how it brings people
Mhm.
together, just that sort of elemental kind of thing,
Totally.
how important it is, and
Were you a fan of Anthony Bourdain?
yeah, I was. I mean, I read his book. I mean, he was
Yeah,
really one of the OGs in terms of sort
totally.
of,
For
celebrity
his
chef.
culture, but
Yeah, and
also like
culture,
teaching
and
us
yeah,
the
and his
global impact.
yeah, and his style was just so like badass, basically.
Totally.
Um,
And he was
yeah.
hot. He was hot.
um, by the BT Dubs, he was hot.
Right.
Uh,
By the way, let's
by the
let's
way,
get shallow again.
so yeah, so I just started embracing it more and more, and then I kind of realized like, and I've said this before, there are, to me there are three basic needs in life: food, clothing, and shelter. So how
Yeah.
do you make food into cuisine? How do you make clothing into fashion? How do you make a shelter into a home? You know, it's all it's really all about thought and extra thought and care and the luxury to do that,
Yeah.
which it is, and the fact that I get to sort of play in that area is
Yeah.
is exciting. So
And it's the elevation of them all without being undemocratic. It's elevating in terms of its high ideals, it's meaningful, but it's not elevation as in, spoonful of caviar only.
yeah,
It's yeah.
yeah, I
Um
think it's whether it's not about like money or anything like that. It's really just about it is about feeding your soul, or you're making sure you like the stuff that surrounds you is is uplifts you,
yeah.
and that could be a candle or that could be a jet. Anything in between.
Yes, it could be.
I wouldn't mind a jet, but hey, let's
Though
yeah,
I told my kids, as though I have any choice otherwise, that jets are great and all, but unless it has a bedroom, the futurism of a business class seat on a long flight is thrilling.
yes, I love. I mean, I took my like first flight or whatever like a month ago, and I sort of it's obviously a little bit different now. They don't do the full thing, but like, they don't serve you champagne when you get on the thing. But literally, the moment we were up, I was like, just keep it coming. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be watching some movies that I've never heard of,
Yeah.
because I don't know any of the movies now. But yeah, there is something so dreamy about a lovely experience, um, up in
Yeah.
the air. Yeah.
Up in the air.
I
So
sometimes watch. I actually sometimes go on YouTube and I will watch. There's all these people that like review flights, and they go on a flight.
I'm on the points guy all the time, even
Oh yeah,
though I'm
yeah.
I'm not doing those. And I also looked up, I think it was called Bougie Flights or Bougie Air. It's
I,
another points guy kind of
yeah, no,
guy.
yeah, and they all go on
Yeah.
like first class Emirates like around the world, and You're like, ooh, what are you eating? Ooh.
Right. I have not had that pleasure.
Yeah.
Um,
Before the Z-Quil kicks in and I'm out, so you know.
yeah. But it does fashion, travel, all of those things like hit my dog brain where I get very excited. And I know
Yeah.
most people go into a crowded airport and they want to vomit. It just to me, it is a childhood response. Like I
Yeah.
think something very exciting is going to happen. And it took me years to realize that when I was landing and looking at all the lights, the
Yeah.
reason I got so excited was because it looked like an amusement park,
Oh,
with
completely.
all of the twinkling lights.
Yeah, and you see the tiny
Um,
little cars and you're like, oh my
yeah,
gosh, you're in a new place.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so back to you. Um, Much more importantly than, you know, whatever. Um,
First class Emirates.
yeah, exactly. Live the dream, somebody.
Please, somebody take me away.
Um, so you started your own company, as you said, between Blass and Hilfiger. So you kept having your own company while you were at Hilfiger as a
Yeah.
consultant.
Yeah, most designers, they have it. I wouldn't even call it a side hustle, but like just it's you're always consulting with other brands. You're always whether it's
Right.
Ghost or whether it's Public. Most designers of that are not massive brands do.
I did not know that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a lot of hustling, but you
And
gotta.
the person that your day job's at is cool with that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, most fashion designers of like that
Or is it just understood?
of a certain size. I mean, yeah, it's you can't hide the fact that you have your own line, and then like,
Right.
I
You're
mean,
like,
it's
that's not
part
me,
of the
Peter Song. That's somebody else.
yeah, no, it's part of the that's part of I guess
Tutelage.
the draw is that or you are a young up and coming or a notable name and have some buzz around you and hopefully talent as well. And a company wants to hire you consult with them on on their line. And
So how did you make the leap to do your own thing? Because that's scary, ballsy, exciting.
I think I told myself so back in fifth grade, when I told my parents,
Yes.
I said by the time I'm 30, I want to start my own line. And when you're in fifth grade, 30 seems like you know everything and you're like
Oh
an
my God.
adult.
And then
And
you're going to
like,
drop dead at 31
yeah,
because
no,
nobody could
exactly. You're
possibly
like,
live beyond it.
yeah, you're like old. You're like you know everything. So I did that, and I think it probably helped that I was running on adrenaline and a lifelong dream, and
Yeah.
that I didn't know too much about a lot of the, uh, you know,
Right.
ins
The
and outs and
mechanics.
pitfalls and whatnots of doing everything. Because when I started, it was really out of my apartment. I mean, had a few interns. Was doing that in my apartment. When I first started, I was working on another job still as an associate designer. So I think it was really just adrenaline. Like I was like
Yeah.
diving off that diving board, having faith that there was at least like an inch of water to
But also,
land.
you had met with a lot of success very young, which is it's a great buoy for right or for wrong going forward, right?
I mean,
Life hasn't gotten to you yet.
I think life can get to everybody. It's about how you bounce back,
I do
from,
know. I
you
know.
know, yeah, it is really how you handle it. And so
I handle bad things very badly.
I mean,
I
I've
handle
had,
disappointment and
yeah,
sadness terribly. So I very, very much admire people who, like the movies I want to watch and the stories I want to hear
yeah,
are of triumphing over setbacks.
yeah.
Like,
No, yeah. I mean, I think the thing I learned over the years is just to be kind to myself because I think we can all be so hard on ourselves. Like, or this is how I should respond to this, or this is how I should. I feel like whatever anyone's process is to get from A to B, even if you don't know what the B is, and you take a bunch of U-turns and the curly cues, that's fine. That's just life, And it's like we're all just doing the best we can.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know.
Has COVID had I mean, of course, COVID's had an effect. What has the effect of COVID had on you in the past year. How did you, I think we all stitched together our years as best we could.
Yeah,
How did
yeah.
you stitch yours? I mean, obviously you didn't turn off. You've been taking energy and putting and growing.
Yeah, I think creatively, and I think a lot of like, you sort of thinking about artists who, in times of difficulty is when they can create the best, or they, there is this visceral response to start creating and trying to make things happen, whatever it is. Sorry, my
I,
laptop volume is on.
I
Excuse me.
don't I don't even notice that anymore. I
I
just
know.
assume everybody's dinging and donging.
Um, so, so I think it was an opportunity, whether forced or not, when we were sitting at home and my boyfriend and I were in Sag Harbor for a good handful of months
Nice.
to really try to reimagine, I wouldn't say reimagine, but sort of really take the blinders off of what, you know,
Take
things
stock.
could be. Yeah. And that's really last September, I relaunched my website to kind of reflect not just my fashion, but like
Yeah.
food and living and all that kind of stuff. Um, and to really sort of say, this is who I am now.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, so it was really this sort of blinders off. Let's just like, see what we can do. Um,
I appreciate fashion designers who, well, first of all, though I hate to say this since I'm a decorator, I think that fashion designers have some of the most beautiful houses, period. And I appreciate when designers expand in the way you are expanding into everything. Because if you really love somebody's point of view, you don't want to cap it
yeah,
at
yeah,
just, you know, you know,
yeah,
you want that direction.
yeah,
And there's something, like I love women who design for women for sure,
yeah,
but there's something, it's interesting how many fashion designers are men for women, and
yeah.
I don't know. There's also something appealing about it because it just puts it in a different setting that is, I don't know, cool. But I'm glad I'm glad you relaunched your website, and everybody who's watching this or who will watch this should run, don't walk to look at the website, because it really is. It's not even a slice of life. It's just like you want to live in your website. You want to taste the foods. You want to see the interiors. It's just like putting your glasses on our face.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it was fun to do. Like, it was really like, how do I want to reimagine like the website, and which is an extension of kind of like what I'm doing, and how, it is like, how do you kind of like sort of figure out like how to put all your passions into kind of one place, and um, so yeah, it's been great. It feels, I mean, everyone talks about authenticity or whatever, and and that's definitely me. It's not the me that's like watching like Antiques Roadshow with my
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
on the couch eating like Chinese takeout by the shovelful. But because we all have that. But yeah, I wanted to design to do. My whole thing is about sort of effortless, approachable, still beautiful, still delicious.
Mhm.
It's really, it's to me creativity, like kind of to your point, about not putting a cap on things. I feel like creativity is fluid. So, and I'm not techniques are different, obviously. Like, I'm not
For
going to
sure.
go be an architect or whatever, or
Yeah.
but
But your sense of proportion and scale
yeah,
all lends itself.
yeah, I think that a creative approach, to different creative disciplines, you know, can be the same. I say like the way I've always designed a dress. I want it to be effortless. I want it to look good. When you put it on, I want you to feel great. I want you to wear it again and again and again. And it's the same
Mhm.
with a recipe. I want it to look good. I want it to taste good, and I want you to make it again and then again and
Yeah.
again. And that is not always
Yeah.
the easiest, but that's kind of that's my goal.
But it also taps into the current zeitgeist of not zeitgeist, that's not the current push to that fast fashion is wasteful. You know, it's
Hmm.
great because it's democratic, of course. You know, I would always look at my father's clothes, which were impeccable,
Oh
and
God,
he
sure.
was he was a Hall of Fame best dressed guy.
Yeah, I
And I
mean,
was like, well, guys can. They buy a suit, and yes, it's expensive, but they can wear it for the rest of their lives. And that, you know, women, you know, it costs us so much money to wear things. But if you cultivate a culture where re-wearing, wear it again and again and again, that is a very encouraging thing for a woman to hear, because, you know, we want something beautiful that we can wear again and again and again,
yeah,
because, you know, that's the only way we can, you know, afford it.
yeah.
Um, when you sit down to make a dress, what do you think about besides what you just said? What
Um,
are some? I don't want to say signature because you're much more than a single gesture, but what are things that that are sticking points?
you know, I think when I sit down to sketch a dress, I do think about the mood. Like I think about the vibe I'm feeling, or so I did a collaboration. I'm kind of working with Anthropology, and
Yes.
the vibe was, and I designed this in like the middle of the pandemic. So
Yeah.
my whole vibe was escapism, and so it's like
Yeah.
Greece, and the place fresh and like windswept and beautiful and far
Mhm.
away. So it is, and I wanted to capture that kind of vibe. So if people couldn't travel there, you could maybe buy a dress and get a tiny little feeling of
Yeah.
that sense. So I do think about that. I think about practicality, obviously.
Hmm.
And I think and fabric and all those kind of parts. Ultimately, fashion, part of it is really about dreaming. And I
Hmm.
think that goes back to the Greece thing. It's like, it's about creating a dream,
Like
um,
evocation.
evoking a mood or a sense. And I think while still being rooted in reality,
Hmm.
because for me, like I always have thought, when I did runway shows, I wanted the model to be able to walk right off the catwalk and down into the street and feel like she was fabulous,
Yeah.
and it could actually do that. So yeah,
And
I
the
mean, I've always
Anthropology collection has tons of sizes too,
yeah, it goes from petite to plus, so it's full, universally sized for
which is
everybody. So
awesome.
yeah, so and that's been great, and I think that's it's important. So
It is important.
yeah.
Um, if you could, like, money was no problem, you could just do professionally whatever you want in the next 10 years, what, or five, what's the, you know, is there the business that has home, it's got a restaurant, almost like the Polo restaurant, you could, you know, like, what's the whole,
Oh gosh.
everything you could do?
Um.
Because you're stretching, you're in this growth process.
Yeah. I mean, hey, listen. If money was an object and like just, I would sort of it would I wouldn't mind sort of a bit of Martha Stewart, a bit of Ina
Mhm.
Garten, thrown together. Hey, that would
Yeah,
great.
that would be great.
You, you know,
I would
I
buy that magazine. I would give somebody the recipe to cook for me.
I just I just that would be. And for me, I think, I love sort of fashion. I always have a foot in fashion. That's always
Yeah,
like part of my who I am as
your
a
core.
yeah. But the other part of it, majority really is the food side. I love cooking. I love creating recipes. I love
Yeah.
being in the kitchen. I mean, I
What about tabletop?
I love tabletop, and that for me, that's almost a natural extension of and the meaning of
For
it's
sure.
textile.
It's the Venn diagram.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is really that sort of place where things all meet. So yeah, I love tabletop. I love a placemat. I love napkins. I have way too many of them.
I hear you.
I buy dishes also, like they're going out of style. So I probably need storage solutions. Well,
Um,
I should talk to you about storage solutions.
yeah. Um, I I think it'd be well. When you cook, what are your major go-tos in terms of recipes? What are the dishes that you are creating over and over?
Um, it really kind of varies. I mean, just based on the season. I mean, I'm sure
Which it
everybody knows
should.
that I cook seasonally. Yeah, okay. But yeah, I mean, I think like right now I'm really obsessed with salads, and I'm actually contributing to.
Boo.
I know, but you can put fried stuff on a salad too. It's great.
Okay.
Um, but
Really? Tell me
I
more.
just did these amazing salads. I can't. Can I say it? I don't know. Anyway, I'm a contributing food editor to the Purist magazine, so
Yeah, you could say that.
I've done some exciting things for the next episode issue. I can't even talk.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but for me, I do love pasta. So
Hmm.
somehow there's always a pasta recipe somewhere in there. And the great thing about obviously pasta is you can vary, it is somewhat of a blank canvas.
Yeah.
You can vary it in so many different ways. I
I did
love
have a
pasta.
friend who would throw farfalle on her salads.
Oh,
And I
really?
enjoy.
Wow.
I was, and that's like the only way I could get behind a salad.
That's a
Like
visual. Just
a
throwing pasta.
pesto pine nut farfalle salad.
Ooh,
I could do
that sounds
that.
like delicious. Ugh. Maybe with a
Yes,
crisp glass of rosé by the
and
pool.
maybe sans the salad.
Yeah, yeah. I'll have the
The
pesto
salad without the
farfalle
salad, please.
salad. Can you hold the salad
Hold the salad.
and replace that with more rosé? Thanks.
Yeah, totally. Yes, yes,
Yes,
Peter.
yes to all that. The other thing that and sometimes I go through spices and things, but Chinese five spice is sort of one thing that I somehow always seem to come back
Yeah.
to. And it took me a while. I mean, I am Chinese, that's my background, but it really was in the last 2 years that I sort of embraced all that Chinese five spice is. So
Now, have you been to China?
yeah, I have. And for a good handful of years, I was consulting with some companies in Hong Kong. So I was in
Oh,
Hong Kong,
cool.
which is
That
where
is
my
very cool.
mom's side is from. And Hong Kong is a very fun city.
So, was there anything about Chinese food in China that surprised you? I mean, probably not, since your parents were, I imagine, well, I don't know, they were both professionals. Were they cooking for you at home?
Yeah. I mean, I was, I guess, what you call a latchkey kid, which I didn't really know
Yeah,
I didn't know what that was. But like, my job, my parents had an architecture firm. I would come home first, usually, put on the rice. So whether we were having Chinese food or Western food or
yeah,
whatever it was, there was always rice. So I put that on. And then sometimes there was something marinating in the fridge that I'd have to take out to get to room temp.
yeah,
My mom, she didn't, she loved to cook. She didn't always have time because she was working,
yeah.
a working woman. But she, was obsessed with French food. When we had our braces tightened, she would make spinach
Oof,
souffle. She would make spinach souffle, which I think
that
was
sounds
like Mom
delicious.
of the Year award for doing that.
Though I would assume that that would stick in your braces.
you know,
She was laying a trap.
oh my God, what were you doing, Mom? God, foiled again.
Would have been ice cream.
But my mom was, she's still very much of a health nut. So I think she's like, gotta get the veg in, gotta get the
Yeah, yeah,
veg
yeah,
in.
yeah.
So
And if
you
the
just go,
souffle
you,
is
she's
the
like, you just
thing,
go and floss. Just go and
yeah,
floss. I
yeah,
made it so you didn't have to choose. So go floss.
nothing is as bad as having the braces tightened.
I mean,
Nothing.
my teeth were so jacked up. Like I had the rubber bands
Oh
that at a
yeah,
certain
so did I.
point,
Head
they were,
guard at night.
at a certain point, my rubber band routine was literally almost like a lattice pattern from top to bottom. I mean, across the whole thing.
It's like somebody's trying to tell you something.
I'm like,
Like,
this is not a
shut
cute
up.
look. Not a cute look. Yeah.
Shut it down.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh,
so would you say that your California Chinese is pretty authentic?
I mean, I think there's the whole topic of sort of what's authentic Chinese food
No, no,
is.
no, no. And I'm
Uh,
not throwing shade on the inauthentic.
no. There's no shade. I think every kind of Chinese food, every iteration is, there's a history behind it. There's a
Right.
reason
And
how
it's
it
a
got.
big
But
country.
Yeah, and it's a big country, and but I mean, I think I grew up eating Chinese food, and as a kid, sitting at Chinese banquets with all
Right,
my grandma and my aunties, and
right.
course
Proper
after course
Chinese.
after course after course would come out. And if you were sitting next to grandma, you were screwed because she'd always just start putting food in your bowl, and you would always just, even if you were stuffed, you just had to kind of pretend you were eating. Um,
Yeah.
but that's a
What
grandma
is
thing.
it about grandparents
I
and
know.
stuffing their grandchildren?
Yeah,
Like,
they don't
are they
want anyone
trying to
to see.
fatten us up so they can like sacrifice us to
Oh wow,
the
it got really dark all of a sudden.
I did get dark. I'm sorry. I'm thinking Hansel and Gretel. Yeah. My mother comes in and like she even with the dog, she brings contraband into the house
Oh yeah.
for her grands. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Anyway,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I think grandparents. That's that they love. That's
that's
the
the gig.
yeah, and then food is love, right? So like,
Food is love.
yeah,
Food
yeah,
is love.
it is.
Um, so back to you taking over the world. It's going to be. Would you ever do a restaurant?
I don't know, man. I
I
mean, I
love
have
the
friends.
idea of designers who are so gifted
I mean,
in the culinary arts to doing that. I know it's a bad
I
business, right? It's a
it's a. I
horrible
mean, I have
business.
friends who are chefs, and it's a grind. I mean, it is
I'm
hard
not
as
saying
work.
cook. I'm not saying get in the kitchen.
No, but even just the business part of it,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I would love to, maybe do a guest menu with a restaurant or something
Ooh,
like
that's a
that.
great
You
idea.
know, um, you know, uh, but I think I don't know. Who knows? I'm gonna say here, never say never.
Yeah.
Just
The
that's
guest a guest menu sounds like the coolest thing ever. And you could cut like a pop-up
yeah,
where
yes.
you bring your plates. No, this is ridiculous. Anyway,
I bring my plates.
this is not working.
I
This is
bring
a
my own
terrible,
dishes. It's
terrible
sounding
idea.
worse and worse by the second.
Did I say that was a good idea? It's a terrible idea. What do you think is going to happen to fashion after this year of sweat pantage? I
I
mean,
mean,
I don't think it's fully going to revert
well,
back.
I
Do
think
you?
there is the buzz. The buzz is that
Tell me the buzz.
the buzz is that people are dying to get out and to dress up,
Well,
and
yeah,
I think everyone's bought all the sweatpants they can buy,
that's true.
and that there's going to be a trend to start wearing sexier clothes, just more embellished clothes. Like the act of dressing up and going out to a restaurant is, I think, something that I think most people have missed incredibly. So I think there is going to be that trend. I mean, you have the pandemic of 1918, what happened the Roaring Twenties, you know.
Right,
So I think
right.
there's going to be a crazy ass summer. Let's
Yeah,
just say, and I get a whoop.
but you also get Vietnam and the 70s and the 80s. So, um,
Why? Why?
yes,
There we go again, taking you
partially
a
were,
dark ass place.
and some other things that we were bequeathed by
I
the
know.
Roaring Twenties.
Um, but
But
I think people really had stopped shopping. I mean, look at even the New York City real estate market has been bouncing back in a crazy way, and
yeah,
that
though I just feel like that's apples and oranges because that's a
I just think it's indicative, though, a little bit of the mentality of the
yeah.
spending. So yeah, and home is completely different. I mean, the home, it's my
And I
boyfriend's.
and I read what you said about New York that you do not feel like New York is going to bounce back because you didn't feel that it went away. It was just
It took a nap. It took a nap.
yeah, it took a
You
nap,
know, took a
an
little
earned
nap.
nap.
Yeah, it took a nap. I think the sort of, made me appreciate New York even more. I mean, I was here for 9/11, which
Mhm.
was traumatic to say the least. And I think in a similar way, just I appreciated the grit and the strength of New Yorkers and the way we just rally and support and bounce back and do what we got to do. So I think, yeah, New York took a little nap. Well, the world kind of took a nap.
Yeah, yeah. We lay
And
fallow.
yeah, yeah, and there's still, I think in New York we're lucky at where we are, and not everybody's so fortunate in the world. So So there's a way to go, but I think New York, yeah, New York is a tough city. It is a center of culture and finance, of lots of things,
Hmm.
and it ain't going nowhere. New York forever.
It ain't going on. New York
Your
forever.
T-shirt, yeah,
Yay.
yeah.
Trying not to make it like an egregious boob shot. Um,
You're just like you're like, hey,
are they
Alexa, nice
up?
to meet
They're up.
you.
Um, okay, a big left turn. Who are like three of your favorite clothing designers of all time?
Oh my gosh. Oh, let's
I
see.
know, but you got to have like a couple of them
Yeah.
ready.
So Balenciaga, but like Cristobal
Mhm.
Balenciaga.
Of course, I
Um,
knew what you meant.
yeah.
I feel like
So
he's a fashion designer's fashion designer.
yeah, I
I feel
mean
like
the
all fashion designers love
yeah,
Cristobal.
I mean the sort of the rigor, the architecture, the severity, but then
Mhm.
also just the volumes he's able to create. And
Mhm.
obviously, when you have Irving Penn and people like that shooting your clothes, I
Mhm.
mean, it just is going to elevate everything. And those, that was pretty much obviously pre social media. Everyone had a camera
Sure.
snapping away, so you just have these images locked in time that of these beautiful, beautiful pieces. So I think him. Jeffrey Bean, who is another American designer that
Yeah.
uh, people may not remember his genius, the level of artist.
What is the terribly stylish woman who wears his clothes all the time? Amy
Amy
Fine
Collins,
Collins.
yes, yes, yes,
Yes.
who
And
has.
she looks like Dovima or something,
Oh
just
yeah, completely.
walking off of the page.
Oh yeah, I think she has an archive of his things that are probably one of a kind pieces. But
Correct.
his craftsmanship and detail, and I mean, just amazing. Who else do I love? Hmm. I mean, there's so many. Gosh, I mean,
Okay,
I love.
you don't have to. Two is plenty.
I know I'm getting emotional. Who do I love? There's so many. I mean, there's really,
Yeah.
and for different reasons too. Like Claire McCardle. Like, I mean, I love her.
Who's
Sort of the
Claire
practice.
McCardle?
Claire
Blonde Claire
McCardle
McCardle?
she was a big designer in the 50s, and she was
Mhm.
probably I mean, maybe one of the first female, like, well-known, famous designers who really created elevated denim and sort of really spoke to women and how they dressed, and she was this amazing designer.
Yeah.
So many. Patrick Kelly,
Okay.
like, anyway, I could go on.
Yeah. No. That's it's lovely to hear because back what you said about Balenciaga and the rigor, and I think that must be Jeffrey Bean as well.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
that rigor for somebody who is so accomplished as you are, that of course that would be a hugely appealing aspect. Also, what you said about like you saw it on the page,
Yeah,
the two dimensionality of looking at the page is such an emphasizer for silhouette. So both of those people I think of as like strong silhouette
yeah,
designers.
definitely.
Um,
And form
um,
and stuff.
and form and volume, as you
Yeah.
said. Um, what what do you think your next collection is going to look like?
Oh goodness.
I mean,
Um,
are you sketching now? Are you?
I mean, I stopped doing runway collections a while ago, so I mean, I
Well, and I don't mean runway. I mean, are you just like assembling and amassing designs? What's going on over there?
what's going on? What's going on? I'm doing I have another anthropology, capsule coming out, which is shipping in what, two
So
days?
great.
Fingers crossed. um, so for me, it's I love. I've always loved color.
Mhm.
I always loved pattern. So you're always going to see that. And I like to say that, and this sounds super like Pollyanna, but I like happy clothes. I
No, I don't
like,
think that's
I,
Pollyanna at all.
I
I love
like,
Oscar de la Renta,
oh
and
my
I
God, yeah.
consider him as the purveyor of joy.
Oh, completely, completely. And so, for me, it's whatever I design, and I think that does bleed into, other, the food and everything else. It is,
Yeah.
I want to deliver happiness. Wait, isn't that a phrase from like Amazon or something? Okay. Um, sorry,
No, no,
don't sue me. Don't sue
but I
me.
get it. I get it.
But yeah, I like happy clothes. I love joyful clothes, print, pattern, color. Um, but for me, I think it's that California part of me that I just want it to be effortless too. I want the ease. I want pockets. I want like, you
Right.
know, you should wear a sandal. And then, some of my runway shows, I had evening gowns, but I would put them in sandals because I just love that
Yeah.
kind of like ease. So
Yeah. Well, because you are the quintessential American designer. Um,
thank
did
you.
you, I mean, I know you sold worldwide. Where were your biggest markets outside of America?
Biggest markets outside of America. Oh my goodness.
Like who outside of America gets Americana, which is not what it was. I mean, present day American design.
Yeah. I mean, I think, well, we were really sort of, I would say at our sort of at the height or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
We were really sort of one third, US, one third Asia, one third, Russia, Europe, that sort of part of
Right,
the world.
right.
We were really kind of, we were just, everywhere.
Yeah. Diffuse.
We were just, yeah, just,
Would
so
you ever work in Europe? Would you like? I was very surprised, and now as an older person, I get it. But when Oscar de la Renta did the Balmain gig, I thought that was so interesting to see, just as a hero, to
yeah,
see somebody grown up, like, and at the height of their powers,
yeah.
go work under a different name. I thought was hugely compelling because it was suggestive of, obviously continuing the Balmain name, which I think at the time I didn't even know until he did it. And
Yeah.
then in addition, showing the curiosity of a grown up, that you don't stop learning and stretching. And I also feel that way about Karl Lagerfeld. I found it extraordinary that he had so many irons and so many fires.
Well, yeah, he was somebody famous for the amount of the prolific nature of just everything he did. I mean, so yeah, I think I've consulted with European brands and that kind of stuff, but for that example, and he was doing couture, so in Paris, the opportunity to work, I think. And already Mr. De Laurentiis was working at the highest level in the U.S. I mean, pretty much
oh my God,
closest couture as you could get. But I think for any designer of any level, the opportunity to work with these ateliers and Lesage embroidery house, and all these, famed places is an opportunity of a lifetime. I mean,
so if Chanel came a calling, would you do it?
Oh, hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, I can work a tweed jacket in any way I can. I mean, I feel for
like,
sure.
I agree. Do you think they'd ever hire anyone that Lagerfeld wasn't French, but he might as well have been. But
well, I mean, I think, there was...
Can you imagine what a coup that would be?
Well, I
to
think...
be an American at Chanel?
Well, I mean, I think you look at... There was, obviously, Marc Jacobs at Vuitton. Michael Kors was at Celine. There is a history of American designers, going to these French houses and infusing their sensibility with that French tradition. And I think just that speaks to sort of the global nature of fashion right now. I mean,
true.
It's so global, and Asia is a huge market. Obviously, it's there, so it's really global, and so. Hey, I can give me a little tweed jacket and a few gold chains, and I'll, shimmy over there.
Actually, as a tall and frequently big girl, I go big, small, big, small, big, small. I got to tell you, if you end up at Chanel, boucle is very tough for women of size. Because it's just such a bulky fabric.
It's bulky, yeah.
And you end up and obviously the joy of a Chanel suit, it is probably in its identification, like its obvious identification. It's semiotics,
iconic.
And its boxiness. It's boxy. It's boxy.
Oh, the classic one is really cut like a cardigan, technically. Yeah.
Do you speak French? Somebody's saying it's time for you to learn French. Do you speak French?
Oui, je parle français un petit peu. You
Un
know.
petit peu, hein?
Yeah.
And do you speak Chinese?
Siu siu, sick tam, sick gong.
What
That
variant?
means
Mandarin
I
or
can speak more Cantonese. A lot. Yeah,
Cantonese?
so I just basically said I speak a little. I can understand, but I can't speak. But I can speak. I can
Shay Shay.
listen. I can. I am great at Cantonese in a restaurant, getting places and
Yeah.
basic sort of conversation. You know, I like every Chinese kid in America. I was sent to Chinese school when I was young, but you know, I didn't really want to learn. Like I was like, oh, I'm in America. I'm like, I want to just fit in.
Yeah, that doesn't make you un-American.
No, and now I'm like
Now you're kicking yourself.
Yeah, I wish I was fluent, but I'm not bad, but I'm not great.
But I think I read something. My daughter takes Mandarin. I remember reading something that if you hear it as a child, there are noises and sounds that you can achieve that you can't if you didn't hear those, very subtle variants.
Well, that's the same with French. I find the more red wine you drink, the better your accent gets.
I can roll that R really well.
I mean, and I sound like, I sound like Edith Piaf, but if I've had a few glasses, and I, I start singing, and a spotlight shines down on me. I don't know what happens.
And your eyebrows disappear from your face.
Yeah, and they just sort of turn into like a lot of pencil. Like, excuse me, do you have a pencil and a cup? Thank you.
Yeah. I'm probably one of the few people who could always answer yes to, do you have an eyebrow pencil? Yes, I do. It is never far out of reach.
Yeah, no.
So before I mean, obviously I'm never linear because I just want to chat, but what are you going to do this year? What are you going to do when you get let out of prison? The prison of degrees.
What am I going to do? Well, I mean, I think
you have another anthropology collection coming
out. I have another anthropology collection. I'm doing a few more things coming up, which I can't talk about, being very mysterious.
Okay.
And then, continuing to do recipes and that kind of thing. And
are you going to do a cookbook?
I mean, that's sort of something. That's something.
Remember that Givenchy book? I guess it was Givenchy style, must have been. And that was very, it had fashion and his interiors. It was a great template for how to do a book that's got all kinds of things in it. It's still things are still, in a planning stage. So, And then I think other than that, I will try to go out and eat at every New York City restaurant to support our restaurants. Yes. It's really important. I will be right there with you. I cannot take another delivered cheeseburger. Actually, I can. I probably will today. But I will be with you.
Yeah. I actually was at Indochine the other night, and, you can sit at the bar now and have a drink. And that was, it's space and everything.
Revelatory.
But I felt very excited to do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we will not end on this because it's too terrible. But like, what the F with what's going on with Asian hate? And do you ever feel, like I have friends who are like, I'm just staying home.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
Is it that bad? Like, are you? I mean, I know it's that bad. I read in the paper things that I cannot believe.
Yeah, it is that bad. And I think it's like, I worry about, my parents. I worry about, especially the elder. I mean, to me, anybody who assaults an older person is a beast. I mean,
anyone who assaults anybody is just terrible people.
But to assault a push an 80-year-old or something like that. So it's, it's the reality is my mom, in her purse, she has a buzzer and it makes a loud noise just in case. That's the reality. The reality is she can't walk in the office by herself anymore because because I'm like she can't go anywhere by herself. And I'm like, tell my stepdad, you guys are you're a pair. You're like nuns. You do things together. But it's heartbreaking, and
It's disgraceful.
it's just
Well,
there's no words I could use. So.
the thing that thrills me is that here you are of Asian descent, and you are the quintessential American designer. You are the face of some of the greatest American design out there. So suck it, bitches.
Yes,
You know,
exactly,
like,
exactly.
and since Chanel is going to call you soon, you will also be the face of French design.
Yeah, yeah. Hello, oui.
I tell you, yeah,
Emirates first class, oui.
yes, they're going to fly you Emirates to Paris. I know that flight doesn't exist, but let's pretend.
Well, make it happen. Exactly,
Make
exactly.
it happen.
And then
Anyway,
I'll make sure there's scrim in the first show.
Yes.
Scrim. Yeah. So.
Yes. I thank you so much for doing this today. I am such a big fan. You're major, and I'm excited I'm excited to go to anthropology, frankly. So I'm going to get off the phone and go. I need some stuff.
You need stuff.
And
yeah.
I do. And the sizing is important. So I'm thrilled.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's been so much fun talking to you. Like, I feel like we have so many people in common. And
yeah, except you've been so good at avoiding me then.
You finally caught me. You finally caught me. I'm like, is it her again? Julie, new phone, who dis? No, I'm kidding. But like,
who dis?
But it's been so much fun. Thank you for having
me. We will go to a restaurant together.
Yes.
And I will try to find something that has an actual zipper instead of my elasticized waistbands. And
deal.
Kisses, and I will speak to you soon.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks, Alexa.
Peter. Bye.